Katie Coulson, welcome to the Pre-Construction Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks for taking the time to set this up. Really looking forward to this one, Katie. Not only to speak to you because I've been following your career for quite a bit from your days in project controls and risk, but now you're heading up the Skanska Advanced Technology Group as the EVP and General Manager. So really looking forward to getting into that. What we're going to discuss as well is making the kind of transition from project controls and risk to this new group. Obviously, what we can expect. We'll discuss your degree, data, the tariffs, the CHIPS Act. There's so much to get through. So let's start. Let's start with a little bit of a bio. Give us an idea of your background, and then we'll dive into it about how it all began with you.
Yeah. I went to school really for civil engineering and in construction. Focused on construction, and I've been at Skanska for almost 26 years. And started really in that project engineering type roles, worked through project manager, senior project manager. And then, as you mentioned, I took a 2.5 year detour over to really kind of the project analytics and controls and risk, and really learned, a totally different side of the business, which helped me then when I went back into operations about 10 years ago and ran a really large high-tech project. It was about $500 million. And then became, the account manager for a lot of our high-tech work. And then, as you mentioned, in January, became the EVP of our new operating unit, Skanska Advanced Technology.
Brilliant. Congratulations, firstly, on the new role. It's a
Thank you.
huge step, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Was it always construction for you, Katie, way back in high school? Where did the inspiration come from, or who kind of nudged you in the construction way?
It wasn't always construction. I knew I loved math and science. And so my dad actually encouraged me to go into engineering. So I'm from Minnesota, and I ended up going to school at the University of Wisconsin at Madison. And so I ended up, kind of going into civil engineering, and I thought maybe I wanted to do more design. Well, then I did an internship and worked on a construction site, and I just fell in love with it. I loved that there was lots of problem solving, so many different types of people. I think that was such a key factor to me, is that you're not just sitting in a lab, you're working with so many people. And also be able to see your projects come to life. I just feel that it's exciting. And I always say, construction is like an adrenaline rush. And so I just love that.
We're all junkies, Katie, in this
Yes,
podcast.
yes,
We're all construction junkies.
yes.
That's wonderful. I mean, coming into to an industry like this, we have so many people on that go into design or the architecture, and then they just fall in love with construction. You obviously did a lot of time in the operations side. Talk to me now about that transition over project controls and the analytics side of it. Was that a conscious decision, or was that just progress within the firm just to try something else?
It was interesting because I was a senior project manager. I'd been running a lot of large teams and big projects and things like that. And I wanted to do something different. And we were really changing what the role of project controls was. And in kind of that 2.5 years I was there, I focused on risk and also analytics. And, I wanted to do something different. And I don't think I realized how much it would help my career and just my understanding of the business when I first went into it. I thought, oh, this is a great way to kind of meet other people. I'm in Portland. I got to work with our Seattle office. I was working with our Arizona office initially, but then I ended up working with teams all across the country. I was helping in California and Texas and Florida and all over. And for me, it really just helped me understand the business a lot better, but then have so many connections that I wouldn't have if I had just stayed in operations.
Brilliant. I love it. So many times we hear it on the podcast, people taking risks and it paying off. Talk to me now. What did that involve, the risks and analytics? Was it a case of just utilizing the data that you had had? What sort of standard operating procedures did you kind of roll out across your offices and projects?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a change from just almost pure systems and looking at the data. It was and so what was really great was being able to almost define what the role was as we were moving forward. And that was really at the time when all these new systems were coming out. So trying to figure out how do you go from paper documents to digital documents and how do you really sort of change those things. And so a lot of the things that I worked on were helping project teams set up jobs, because right, if the job isn't set up right, there's usually issues later. And I think by having had worked in for 15 years in at Skanska before I took that role, to really have that knowledge to be able to then when things were kind of rolling out of, oh, should we go do this? I would say, could I sell that to the team? Would I actually benefit from that? And so for me, it was really about making sure we had the right systems, looking at the projects and helping the project teams, because I mean, right, the operations teams have so much work on their plate. So how do you help and pull some of that off and make it easier for them? And they're also so emotionally invested in the job, right? And so sometimes it's hard to see some of those things. And so to come in and really, that I'm not an auditor or anything like that, I'm really the person that's coming in to help.
Absolutely. And did it start with looking through previous projects, maybe projects that you'd already delivered yourself, and then do that? Or were you getting, and was there a lot of learning? Because we got to remember, to put it into context, this was back in 2016. So data would have been fairly new to the construction industry, maybe not Skanska. But how did that journey start, and where was it when you left?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, well, I mean, obviously I'd still have to go look at, the projects that I had just been on. So, analyzing those. But what was really great is I just jumped into different projects. I would go walk the jobs and meet with the most likely senior project manager, project executive, talk about the different projects. But we would go walk the jobs and talk about, what their risks are. And I remember one time after I sat down with him and he said, so what do you think? And I said, I think you need some help on just our self-perform tracking and safety. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so I was able to connect him with different people. And that's sort of where that risk piece comes in with helping on the safety side, but then the control side of, how are we tracking self-perform? How are we doing that to make sure that he was using, the most up-to-date and correct items? So it was more of really jumping in and just to go help the teams, but also then I was learning so much as well, about all different types of projects that I hadn't worked on before.
Brilliant, brilliant. And after that, then obviously came going over to the advanced technologies arm and really getting into that as the account manager and looking after those clients. What drew you to that industry in that specific sector?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I've been working in the high tech for, oh gosh, 27 years. I mean, I've really been, even before I worked at Skanska, I did high tech work. And, I think it's, when you think back, right, to 27 years ago, it was always so cutting edge, right? And I think that's what I really liked, that um, it's it's something that, everyone's been in a hospital or a school or some of those types of things. But when you think about going into a clean room, that's, one of the cleanest places on the whole planet, right? And to be able to do lots of treatment systems, right? So that things are safe and it's just, for me, it's just very exciting of really sort of being on the cutting edge. But also those clients really like to try new things, new technology, and really that's what's exciting about it.
Brilliant. Because we actually had, and I mentioned this before, we had Joe Ledger on yesterday from Intel. Obviously, the only, I think, US owned chip manufacturer, and he talked about how complex these projects were. Obviously, now we're seeing the cost of everything going up, but anything from wastewater substations, the utilities, right through to handing it over. I mean, it's hugely complex. I mean, how do you get your head around all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have, our teams, our superintendents, project managers have been working in this industry for a long time. I mean, most of them, our general superintendent has been in the industry for over 30 years and just really have that experience. And a lot of people come from the trades to have the hands-on experience and then go and really lead the projects. And so, people know how, not just how to build it, but how the systems work so that they can fully understand, right, to meet the client's needs. And we really partner with design firms, with clients, so that, because a lot of times we can be building things that are first of a kind systems. We're building it, trying to figure out, is it actually going to work? And so making sure that we're really closely tied with, and I would say also the subcontractors are absolutely phenomenal because they've also been in the industry for a long time that we work with.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said he couldn't believe how advanced the subs have gotten over the last decade almost. But he also said something interesting that whenever they go to a contractor or to a Skanska, it might be only 55% design complete. It's almost that fluid, agile way of building. Is that something that interests you? Or I mean, that must be exciting.
It is. It is. I mean, we are so used to that. And that's what I mean is that we can have the design and it might not be, fully baked. And like he mentioned, there's a lot left to do. But also is with tech work, it's so important about the speed to market, right? Is that they have to get the products out there. We have to get the facilities built. And so we're starting on construction when design isn't complete. And, it's exciting, right? Where we're doing things and working with the owner's design from subcontractors and trying to figure out, what do we move forward with? How do we move forward? And it's, and that's where I think it's so exciting of really, it's the problem solving every single day as the team comes together to do that.
Brilliant. Because I'm thinking from a pre-construction and an estimating point of view, having to conceptually estimate something like that at 60% design, I mean, that causes a lot of challenges. I mean, how do you get a budget or get any sort of number on a page with only 50, 60% design?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of tech clients have pricing agreed to with contractors just to be able to, unit rates and things like that so that they can do the pricing. But a lot of, I would say a lot of the basis where we've done a lot of wastewater treatments or different types of treatments, or we've done different clean rooms. So even though there is a, minimal design, is that we can, and a lot of times we're, doing multiple packages, right? So that we can get started on some of the enabling work as we're finishing design and working through some of those things. So it's not, tech work typically isn't that you provide a lump sum price, right? In the beginning, is that it's more of that progressive design build, progressive type project to be able to get it done and meet the client's needs.
Yeah, and I think is that where the track record comes in, because I think I read recently that Skanska themselves has done $23 billion worth of advanced technology projects. So is that where the historical data, the analytics, as you say, we've done this over the last 3 or 4 years, and this is the cost of a clean room, substation, wastewater plant?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. It's really that long history. We've been working in tech for over 30 years, and so it's looking at the different systems, but also as things change of updating those. But we work closely, and that's why I always say we work really closely with the design firms, but also the subcontractors, because of how you get the cost, and figuring out the design, how we're going to construct it. All of those pieces have to come together because it's not one entity that can do it all.
Absolutely. It's a team effort. And then talk to me now about, we'll talk now about the CHIPS Act. Obviously, it would be huge if it came through. What's your thoughts on it, and what's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of companies have received funding from the CHIPS Act, which is great. Um, there's so much work that's happening in the US, and I think that's where you're seeing a lot of people trying to get into that, get into the industry of just really sort of the tech work. And we've been working with lots of different clients to help them with that and make sure that people understand, the federally, how the federal projects are tracked. How do we get that work going? I mean, I think that there's so many great opportunities, and that's just another way to help the different companies, continue to get work and do construction.
Brilliant. Because I can imagine, I mean, we talked just before we came on about AI and how it's transforming the industry. Obviously, the data centers need to be built now. The chip manufacturing facility and advanced tech needs to be built as well. Are we going to see a lot of these big projects coming online at the same time? And what sort of challenges will that throw up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're seeing there's quite a few data centers, but also, what's interesting is there's a lot of data centers that are 10 years old, and so of how do you help update some of those data centers, and what does that actually look like? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely hubs in the U.S. of tech, and there's quite a few projects that are moving forward and getting started. But I think that we're going to see that kind of steady stream of data centers. But also, I think that there was this really, everyone needs to build for chips, everyone needs to build for AI, for data centers. And I think in some ways you've seen some clients pull back on that, and really sort of level set, making sure that they have the right amount. I think that, we'll see sort of where AI goes, but it almost feels like people thought it was going to go a lot faster than it has, and maybe the need isn't as great. I think it will be, but I think it might take a little bit longer than what initially people thought.
Yeah, there's always a frenzy, isn't there, Katie? There's always a frenzy at the beginning. But that's ideal for you guys, because at the end of the day, if you have all these projects going on at the same time, the resources, the labor, they'll just not be there. You won't get numbers from subs. So it'll be nice if they take their time and do it over a consistent decade or two. Let's talk tariffs now. Obviously, it's a huge thing in the media right now. What's your view on it, and how is Skanska adapting to the tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've, I feel like there's always sort of challenges with the supply chain, whether it was COVID or if there's shortage of workers. I mean, we've seen these types of things before. And so, we're just adjusting and looking at what are the real impacts? How do we, track those? But also, Skanska, we have really a tariff calculator of really looking at, so that we can work with our clients, understand where would the impacts be, what would the costs be, are there alternate suppliers that we can use, how do we get in front of some of those things. So I think it's really looking at the overall supply chain. And I would say this is, it's not something new, where we're trying to manage some of these things. And so I mean, currently we really haven't seen a lot of items, and so I think we'll have to see how is it going to play out. But definitely we're, looking at it and also looking at alternatives to make sure that we're giving our best value to the clients.
Yeah, you mentioned their value to the clients. That's one thing for me that separates Skanska from a lot of the other contractors. The value-added services. You mentioned there the tariff calculator. I also always see market insights from Skanska, sharing it with the public, other contractors, and with your clients. How much has that played a part in Skanska's success?
Yeah, I mean, I love those market insight. I'm so glad that we do, those quarterly webinars and send out the information. One, it helps our teams. It helps our clients. I mean, we have multiple people that, of our clients that really look forward to that information. But it helps us stay on top of all of the things. And like you said, for us, we're so much about, what value do we provide to the clients? How do we make sure that they're in the know, we're in the know, we're making sure that we're, and also our subcontractors, right? I mean, design firms, everyone, so that, we feel that it's important to share that information and get it out there so that people know, how much are their projects going to cost or what are some risks to their projects.
Yeah, I think it's a case now. Everyone is that good, and there's that much data out there, and you've got AI and Chat GPT. Everyone's kind of got an idea of what something costs now. It's just about being open and transparent. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you how you lead the Skanska Advanced Technology team. Now that you're in this new position, what's the most exciting part of being the EVP, the general manager, the decision maker?
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, I've been working, in tech for a really long time and been doing this type of work. I think what's most exciting is, I'm in Portland. We were doing work in Portland. Now we're doing work in Arizona and California, and we have been for the last couple of years. And so really, I think what's so exciting is where Skanska has all these geographical offices, we're really the first vertical market. And so we're working kind of across all units. And so it's exciting for us to be able to partner with our local offices where they already have the subcontractors set up. They have relationships with the jurisdictions, right? And so then to partner with those offices to be able to do this tech work that we're seeing in so many areas of the country. So for me, it's exciting that I get to work with so many different offices and people, which is almost, if you kind of bring it back to when I was in project controls and risk and analytics, that's what I also said is I loved that I could meet all of these different people across the country. And so to be able to work with them, bring new opportunities to our offices, and that, maybe we wouldn't have, because maybe that local team, they need more people or more knowledge that we can then provide to be able to do these projects. So that's where I think it's exciting.
Brilliant. I love it, Katie. And we're excited to see how it develops and excited for you. So listen, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time because I know you're a busy lady. Tell me now if there's anybody listening to this now, whether it's a subcontractor, a client, another contractor, and says, you know what, Katie touched on a couple of things I would just kind of like to ask her a few questions about. Where's the place based to get you?
Yeah, I think that to just send me over an email, Katie.Coulson at Skanska.com, I think is the best way. It's been great. Honestly, we launched Skanska Advanced Technology in January, and we've had a lot of people reaching out, whether it's subcontractors, design firms, clients, and we've been, contacting everyone just with our team of how we can partner together, how we can, do some different projects. I think, for me, what's been really great is we've had a lot of subcontractors and design firms excited that we're doing this Skanska Advanced Technology so that, we can partner in different ways just because they've worked with Skanska over the years. So for me, it's exciting, and yeah, have definitely love to have people reach out so that we can figure out more partnerships.
There you go, folks. Katie, appreciate that. I'll put that email address, but also your LinkedIn profile on in the show notes below, just so they can pop you a connection and keep an eye out. So, thank you very much. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.